Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a huge geopolitical earthquake in climate policy, and one nation's pretty ambitious plan to not just survive the aftershocks, but to actually come out on top.
Okay, so just imagine this for a second. The very foundation of global climate action, that one single agreement every nation on Earth relies on, suddenly cracks. And it fractures because its most powerful signatory in history just decides to up and walk away. And boom, that one decision kicks off this massive domino effect, creating a huge crisis for some, and as you're about to see, a very surprising opportunity for others. All right, let's get into it.
So, where does this all start? Well, it begins with this absolutely monumental decision: the United States pulling out of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
And look, the UNFCCC, it's not just some, dusty old treaty sitting on a shelf. You got to think of it as the entire architecture, the basic plumbing of global climate action. It literally dictates everything, from who cuts their emissions to who pays for the green transition.
So by pulling out, the US is basically tearing up this core idea, this principle that says, hey, if you made the biggest mess historically, you have the biggest responsibility to help clean it up. It's a huge moral and political blow to the entire system.
You know, they say nature abhors a vacuum. Well, so does geopolitics. With the US stepping back from its traditional leadership role, this massive power vacuum just opens up on the world stage. And you better believe other players are ready and waiting to jump right in.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly, right? It's a tale of two powers. As one superpower retreats, focused on short-term politics, another one advances. China sees this not just as a problem, but as its big moment to grab the leadership role on the defining issue of our time.
And this isn't just an observation, it's a strategic reality. Listen to former U.S. climate envoy John Kerry. He put it bluntly. He called this whole thing a gift to China, literally handing them an unprecedented opportunity on a silver platter.
Right. And let's be clear, this isn't just about waving flags and making speeches. This is about cold, hard cash. We're talking about a $23 trillion clean tech market. I mean, that's an absolutely mind-boggling number. So by backing out, the US isn't just giving up a leadership role, it's basically forfeiting the race to dominate that massive market, while China's ready to use its green diplomacy to take an even bigger piece of the pie.
Okay, so that's the global picture. Now let's zoom in and see how all this chaos lands on a nation that is, quite literally, on the front lines of climate change: Pakistan. For them, this isn't some abstract political debate, it's an existential threat.
Just look at this number: 33 million. That's how many people were affected by the catastrophic floods back in 2022. That's not just a statistic, it's a national trauma. It's a terrifying glimpse of what a warmer world really looks like. I mean, a full third of the country was underwater.
And the financial hit? Just as brutal. Over $30 billion in economic losses from one single climate event. For a developing economy, that's a knockout punch. It sets you back years, maybe even decades.
So looking ahead, the mountain they have to climb is just monumental. They need an estimated $565 billion by 2035 to even have a chance to adapt and transition. And here's the kicker. Most of that money was supposed to come from international help that's now totally up in the air.
So you can see the dilemma, right? This puts Pakistan in an impossible spot. They're stuck right in the middle. They desperately need the money for climate action, but now they've got to navigate this completely new, fractured world, trying to balance these super delicate relationships with both Washington and Beijing.
But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of just sitting back and waiting to become collateral damage in this big power struggle, the source material lays out this incredibly bold, proactive 5-point strategy. This isn't about just reacting anymore. This is about pivoting to try and turn this global crisis into a national opportunity.
And here's the playbook. This 5-point plan is really a masterclass in strategic thinking. It's about diversifying beyond your old allies, going deeper with new ones, building up your own strength at home, teaming up with your neighbors, and, maybe most importantly, completely changing how you talk to the US.
So, let's break it down. Steps 1 and 2 are about a two-pronged attack, really. On one side, you go all in with Europe and the UK, and you see things like their carbon border tax not as a penalty, but as a reason to get greener faster. On the other side, you push your partnership with China to make sure their big investments in the country are actually cutting edge and green, not old, dirty tech.
Okay, so next up, steps 3 and 4 are about looking inward and outward at the same time.
Inward, it means, hey, let's stop waiting for handouts and start raising money ourselves. Let's build our own carbon market. Outward, it means revitalizing cooperation with regional neighbors, because guess what? They're all facing the exact same threats.
And finally, step 5. This one might be the most crucial of all. The whole pitch to the United States has to change. You got to forget about pleading for help based on, moral obligations. The new conversation is framed in language the new administration understands. We're talking infrastructure, we're talking job creation, and we're talking national security. It's all about finding that mutual interest.
So, we've gone through the crisis, the dilemma, the 5-point plan. What's the big takeaway here? What does this all add up to, not just for a country like Pakistan, but really for any nation trying to find its footing in this new world?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. The U.S. being on the sidelines, that's probably not permanent. History tells us that. So the real winners in all this will be the nations that play the long game. The whole goal is to navigate this chaos strategically so that when the U.S. does come back to the global climate table, and they likely will, you're in a much stronger, more self-reliant position.
And that leaves us with one final big question. In a world this unstable, with alliances shifting and politics so unpredictable, maybe the greatest strength a country can have isn't a huge army or a massive economy. Maybe strategic adaptation is the new superpower.